Hi guys, welcome back to Fiery Love 1111. I'm here and doing a video. I'm going to do a series of videos about the ego and the higher self, the differences between the two, how to recognize it, okay? Spirit, the universe, my higher self, I'm not really sure. All of the above, I guess, have been calling me to do these videos. I guess it feels like there's a lot of energy out there in the world that has been struggling with this. I know when I posted a video a while ago about this, and since I posted that, I have been getting people asking me, well, how do I know what the difference is? How can I tell? What are some signs on, what the difference is between my higher self and my ego? How can I figure this out? And people are just really struggling and just wanting to better themselves, I guess. And so I've really just been called to do this, and this first video is regarding this, okay? And I feel like I kind of want to call it change. It's inevitable because there's just this huge shift that's going on right now in the world, and so many things are changing. And this is unlike any year we've had ever. And we're halfway through. Here it is, beginning of June, and it just seems like an ethereal year. Like so much was not expected. So much has happened, and then so much has not happened, where we're just stuck. And it puts us in this bind of where we go within, where we really go within and ask, when we're stuck in this quiet and we're stuck in this, in our houses and not working, or even if we are working, we're still not going out like we all used to, so it makes us go within a lot. And it's this forced, I don't want to really say forced, but the universe, it's been coming, it's been needed. And the universe will figure out a way to do this to help us grow. And so it makes us go within. It makes us question ourselves. It makes us question our lives, our work lives, our family, the ones we love, the ones we hold dear to us. It makes us question all of this, okay? And then it starts to make this argument happen, where like, here's our ego talking crap, talking down to us, and here's our higher selves over here, reminding us constantly that we're still growing, that we're still accomplishing things because we're asking these questions, right? So this is what's made this video series come about. And I'm not even sure of the title of all of them yet. I want to try to make these relatable to real world issues that we all seem to face. So in that respect, we can attach our ego to that and realize, oh yeah, I say this all the time, or I know somebody that says this all the time, or whatever. And then when our higher self steps in and tries to help us out, I want to help you by helping you recognize what our higher selves say to us to help us. Okay? So, and like this video, okay, it's change, it's inevitable, right? This whole year, we're the 6th month in to this crazy year, 2020, seeing clearly. We didn't expect this. None of us expected to ever have a year like we have had this year. And so, with this change, it makes us look within. It makes us look deeper. It makes us look at everything that's ever gone on in our lives and question this, okay? So the cards that came out was just these 6 cards, and then an ending kind of one from Spirit. I don't know, I kept trying to put it back and it kept falling out like 3 times. And so I'm like, okay, I'm going to listen to you and just go with it. So, so this first message, and they're all relatable together and they're all relatable separately. So I'll just get into it and tell you. So these bottom ones are always going to be the ego, okay? This is the dark mirror cards, and this is our ego always talking to us, okay? And this card says masquerade. And the message that I got automatically was how we hide ourselves from the world, okay? And how we ignore, deny, push away. Spirit's trying to show me a lot of different words to use regarding this. Masquerade is putting on a false self, Spirit says. And what this means and what this happens is when we have people that come into our lives that are trying to help us grow, and they're always the ones that give us, quote unquote, the most trouble, right? That's what Spirit's showing me, is that, they're showing me the most trouble kind of thing where, here's this person and, they're like, say they're getting ready to go to work and they can't stand going to work every day because there's this one flippin' person that rubs them backwards, that rubs them raw, reminds them of all this stuff in their lives, and they just freaking hate it. They want to quit their job, they want to get away, they want to do something different because they can't stand being around this person, right? So our ego selves, it just reminds us, well, I don't want to be told that I didn't do things right in my life. I don't want to be told that I messed up. I don't want to be told that, I'm not doing perfect, right? So our ego puts this mask on ourselves and hides this away because, the ego is a survival mechanism, okay? The ego is all about shelter, love, protection. It's a protection thing. So, when this masquerade, this mask comes off, we're forced to see how we are in the real world, okay? And so this card, the clarifier from our higher selves, says embrace. Through each other you find the missing pieces. So this card, what it tells me is that, there's going to be people that are going to come into your life and they're going to push your flipping buttons, right? They're going to push your buttons. They're going to make you see what's missing in your life, or they're going to make you see things that you've been needing to fix, that you have been putting off, okay? And our higher selves, every time something happens, our higher selves are going to, our ego selves are going to come in and go, I'm just going to put that mask on. What right do they have to try to, push my buttons and make me feel a certain way? I don't, blah, 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 all these issues. Our ego is defensive, right? Our ego is like this. It's going to lash out. Our ego is going to lash out and say, get away from me. You remind me of things that I don't like about myself, so get away. That's the ego protecting ourselves, okay? So when you come across people like that, the mask comes down in order to protect ourselves, okay? The false self. The ego is the false self, Spirit says, okay? So, and our higher selves, what our higher selves always try to tell us is embrace this. Embrace that person that brings that conflict, quote unquote, conflict in your life in order to fix it. They can help you find that missing piece within yourself and fix it. Okay, so, and let's just say, and I'm going to give you an example, okay? Let me try to think of what something Spirit could show me here. Well, actually, okay, the next one is the example, okay? The child I was meant to be. So this is an example. The child I was meant to be. Here's the ego self looking down on yourself and saying, I had a really crappy life. I grew up, and the ego is going to be put you in this victim mentality, right? And say all these bad things. I really had a crappy life. I wasn't loved. I came into this world from a one night stand or some, or I was not loved. I was emotionally abused. I was physically abused. I was sexually abused. Like, there's a million things you can tell ourselves. The ego would tell ourselves that, the child I was meant to be, I'm not this person, right? It's so hard. And the ego will it's just this protecting thing where you're just going to hug yourself. You're going to hug yourself with your ego and say, well, this thing didn't happen like it was supposed to. I was supposed to be this perfect child that was very loved and nurtured and cared for and all these wonderful things, and that didn't happen. So my ego is going to wrap my mind around what I was supposed to be, right? The ego is going to wrap your mind about what you're supposed to be and almost put you in this fantasy world of what you wanted to be, what you're supposed to be, and not work on the issues that are needing to be resolved, right? So Spirit's telling you, so when this happens, can it get healed? Spirit says no. It can't get healed if you keep hiding, if you keep running, if you keep, protecting yourself with those little arms of love around your soul and say, well, I was supposed to be more loved, but I wasn't. So I'm just going to be a victim the rest of my life. That's what your ego does, okay? But your higher self, this is how your higher self comes in. This is when you'll get these little beautiful nudges from your higher self saying, life is a series of constantly shifting cycles. When we resist change, we resist the natural flow of life and create unnecessary stress, right? What we resist persists. Remember that, okay? That's the law of karma. What we resist persists. So when we keep resisting dealing with any issues that our ego can't handle, then it's going to keep surfacing and it's going to keep happening throughout your entire life until you face it. Until you just say, okay, this happened to me. See, go with the flow. We will be surprised where it leads. When you can just look at your life, your higher self, it says, when you can just look at your life and say, okay, this was how my life was. This was my life. I can't go back and change it no matter how hard I try, right? But I can just accept it. Your higher self wants to tell you, and it wants to help you just accept it. Just accept it. Just say, look, this was how my life was, and that's it. And that's it. Just let it go, and just go with the flow. And then you don't keep bringing this energy back into your life because you've accepted how you were as a child, okay? Or whatever the case may be. But I'm going to use the child I was meant to be as an example, okay? Because no one has a perfect childhood. Nobody ever does. There's always going to be something that it has to be looked at, a lesson in our lives that has to be looked at and fixed. And rather than hiding it, which is what our ego will do, our ego will push it away, it'll hide it, it'll bury it, it'll victimize it, it'll glorify it, whatever it is, that's what the ego does. But our higher self says, look, just accept it. Accept it for who you are and what happened to you, and just go with the flow and say, you know what, I'm the best person I can be right now, today, right now. I'm the best person I can be. And I've accepted my past. And then what you energetically do is you halt that. You halt that from repeating itself. Now, it's not just something you can say. You really have to believe it and know it in your soul. That this is something that you literally just bring it into your soul. Cry it out. Throw shit. I mean, don't hurt anybody. Go out Go out in the, throw rocks into a lake, or do whatever you have. Go running. Do whatever you have to do. Go work out really hard in a gym, or go ride your bike, or do something and just get that energy out, and then accept it. Accept it for all of it, all that it was, and then let it go. And what you literally do is you stop that energy flow from keep repeating itself in your life. You just let it go and say, look, I'm the best person I know I can be right now. That's it. And I'm letting it go. I love myself for trying. I love myself for trying. I'm serious. Look at yourself in the mirror 10 times if you have to, and repeat that over and over and over. I love myself. I love myself for trying. I love myself for trying. I love myself for trying. Say it. Say it, say it, say it, say it, say it over and over and over until your soul doesn't know anything else but knowing that you love yourself for trying. And right here, right now, in this moment, right now, you're the best person that you can be. And you've accepted that past. And you can just be a loving person to yourself, not to anybody else. I'm not talking about anybody else loving you. I'm not talking about you loving anybody else. I'm talking about you loving yourself. This is when your higher self speaks up. This is when your higher self gets stronger than your ego and says, look, I am a beautiful soul. And I love myself for trying. That's your higher self speaking. It's not, you don't need to protect yourself. The ego won't exist anymore. The ego is gone. Whoop, there it goes. The ego's gone, right? There's no need to keep that ego around. Protect yourself from your past when you let it go. There's no need for the ego. And like I always say, there is no ego in the spirit world, in the universe. It's only an ego on earth, in our human realm, in our human bodies, our human lives, we have an ego. But in the spirit world, in the universe, in heaven, there is no ego. We love ourselves for trying. Okay, so that's the difference. And then this other card, it's saying almost the same thing. The colorless angel, okay? Look at how dreary and sad she is. Look at this. This is an ego of the colorless angel, right? Look, there's like no love there. There's no self-love there. There's no self-respect. There's no joy. There's no happiness. There's nothing. It's just colorless. Just look at that. Like there's no excitement, no passion. What does she have for herself, right? Okay, and what is the ego doing when this happens? That's not accepting, okay? The ego is saying, this is my life, oh poor me, I'm a victim, or, I'll never amount to anything, and is this really my life? And, I should have been a doctor, or I should have, there's all kinds of things that we can tell ourselves, right? This is the ego talking. All the what ifs and the hoo-ha and the blah, blah, blah. And I should have done this and I should have done that with my life. And, the ego's, it's a protective thing, right? But what's the opposite of that, right? So the I should have, could have, would have's, it's the ego talking itself down, right? But what else the ego also does is it doesn't allow for change. The ego can't allow you to stand up and go, okay, I'm just going to quit my job and divorce, my wife or husband because I haven't been in love in 15 years and I'm going to start brand new. The ego won't allow that, will it? No, because the ego's about shelter. The ego's about safety. The ego's about not getting hurt. So ego will never tell you to do these things. The only time these things happen in your life, look back on your life, when massive change has happened in your life, It's not from the ego. It's from the higher self. Okay? The higher self steps in and says, trust. You just look at your life for what it is right then. Okay? Whatever the situation of your life is right now, look at it and close your eyes and accept it for exactly what it is. Accept it fully. Okay? Like, whatever that situation is, if you're not making enough money, you're in a job you hate, the love of your life isn't in your life, whatever that situation is, you're in a loveless marriage, you're not living in the state or city that you want. Think of all those things, right? The moment massive change happens is when you let go and trust, and you just accept it. Say, okay, this is my life, and I don't fucking like it. Sorry, excuse my French, but, this is when your higher self actually steps in and says, look, transformation occurs through acceptance. Once you accept the current situation, it will automatically transform because your higher self says, look, I'm done with this. I'm not growing anymore. Your higher self literally will step in and stomp that ego down. So the colorless angel won't exist anymore because the higher self is going to step in and say, look, I'm done. I'm not happy. There's only so much unhappiness and unjoy, dreariness, everything that your soul can take. And when it's had enough, your higher self will literally step in and force this change in your life. You will all of a sudden just decide you're just going to quit your damn job, and you don't know what's coming from. Or you're just going to walk in the door and tell that person that you've been living with that you don't love them anymore. You're done. You're done. Because your soul needs transformation. It needs growth. That's why we're here. Our souls always push for growth all the time. It's rapidly changing and growing all the time. Even when you think you're not growing, you are growing. So when this change happens and your soul steps in, that's your higher self. When your higher self says, you know what, I'm done with this job. I'm done with being around these people that are just bringing me down. It doesn't do a damn thing for me. It does not serve me. Your higher self, your soul will say, will make you ask, does this serve me? And if it doesn't, you're done. Boom, that's it. You're done. So that's your higher self talking. When you accept that change and then you make that transition, whatever that transition is, and every time you start to step back and let fear take over and say, well, maybe I made a rash decision. Maybe I shouldn't leave this person. Maybe I shouldn't quit my job. That's your ego talking, okay? Because it's a safety mechanism. It's a survival mechanism. That's all the ego is. So learning to harness that ego, learning to understand it, listen to it, harness it, and not let it control your life is what it's all about. Okay? It's learning to listen to that inner trust that is your soul, talking and telling you, hey, do you want this transformation? Well, you're not going to get transformation if you stay doing and living the life that you're living right now. Your higher self will always lovingly kick your ass. I'm not even joking, And as an example, look back on your life right now. Look back on your life and think back when there was massive change in your life. And yeah, you were scared as fuck. You weren't sure how it was going to turn out. But looking back on it, the best things that ever happened in your life were the times you let go and trusted. You trusted, you understood the situation that you were in, you understood you didn't like it, and you were ready to move on. That's when the most massive change happens for your soul, because you're done. You're done being in a dead-end relationship. You're done being in a dead-end job. You're done living in a a place you don't care for, it's your soul talking and talking and telling you you're so much more. You can do more. Let's do more. Let's do more. This is why we're here. The soul pushes, our higher self pushes ourselves to be better than we used to be. It's constantly pushing ourselves to be better than we used to be. So I'm going to start giving you personal examples from my own life. So I want this to be relatable, okay? I want you to understand me. And in maybe understanding me, you can understand a little bit more about yourselves. And so, when I look back on doing this, my YouTube channel, right? Well, it was initially a dream. It was a dream over 4 years ago. I kept every single day, I was in a relationship I wasn't happy in at all. And I wasn't doing what I loved. And this day, it just kept calling me something. I want to do what I love. 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 Like, I'd go to sleep at night and that was the last thing on my mind. And when I wake up in the middle of the night, tossing and turning, and then I'd get up first thing in the morning, and this is the thought process. This was my higher self pushing me and pushing me and pushing me and saying, look, this is your calling. What are you doing? What are you waiting for? Right? And, once I literally let go, I left my relationship that I was unhappy in. I was scared to death. I was so scared. I left stability. I left whatever, you can go on and on and on, right? But our all these things that the ego is saying, well, what are you going to do? You're going to sleep on the street. You're going to blah, blah, blah. All these things, right? Well, that's the ego. But the moment that I start to, what my point is, the moment I start to get afraid of change, of maybe failing and doing this YouTube channel, I think back on that day. I think back on that day that I had the courage. I looked at my life. I was very unhappy with it. I wasn't happy. And I accepted it. I accepted my life for what it was right at that moment. And that was the day I got up and I packed my bag and I left. I left. That's my kitty cat. She loves my readings because she loves the energy. And I look back on that life. So every time I get afraid, I think back on that day. And I'm like, you know what? I was scared to death, but I will never regret the day I transformed for my own life. I took that chance for my own life. I trusted the universe. I trusted God to take care of me. I trusted that things were going to work out. Even though I didn't know how, I had no idea how. I didn't have any idea, but I literally let go of all of it. And I knew that I wasn't happy, and I knew I deserved better. So every time I get afraid, I think back on that day. And that's what I want you to do. That's what Spirit wants you to do. You think back on that day that you were highly unhappy, highly dissatisfied with your life. And you stopped and you just accept your life for what it is. Don't listen to that ego anymore, right? And you just listen to your higher self and go for it. Trust. Just let go and trust. Then everything in your life will transform. Its energy. It transforms because you're not holding on to that negative energy of fear, of being hurt, of attachment, all those ego fears, right? That's an energy, and you're not holding on to that anymore. You're letting that go. And when you let that go and you release it like that, then you allow all these new things to come in. That's what trust is. That's what transformation is. You can't have one energy residing with the other. You got to let that other shit go. Let that other shit go. Just accept your life for everything it is right now. And then just let it go. And it'll allow the new to come in. Because you don't know what that new is. You don't know. You could look back on your life in, a few weeks, if that. And go, wow, if I hadn't done that, my life wouldn't be so freaking amazing right now. If I hadn't let go and trusted. and taking this chance on what I want to take, on with this person that I love, or with this job I love, or living in this area I want to go to, or you know, dropping everything and moving to another country. It doesn't matter. Like, you know, just letting go and trusting that. That's your higher self speaking. That's harnessing your ego and not listening to your ego and listening to your higher self. That's true transformation. Because, baby, I'm telling you, change, it's inevitable. So the best thing that you can do, Spirit says, Spirit's asking, who would you rather listen to when this change is inevitable? Who would you rather listen to? Your ego and stay locked up in this box where you're hidden and scared and afraid, right? Or your higher self, just letting go and trusting and letting your higher self take those reins and just trusting and seeing what's out there. Because maybe what's out there is a billion times better than what you're dealing with right now. So that's the first video in my series on the ego and the higher self and transformation. Okay, I'm going to make more videos on this because it feels like there's a lot of need for it coming up. There's a lot of need for it to help people understand what that difference is. So Spirit, you know, the universe is really asking you, pay attention. Pay attention when those fears come up and realize that it's just your ego. It's just a fear and it's just an illusion. All right? Well, I love you guys, and I really hope that you enjoyed that video, and I will see you in the next one. All right. Take care. Don't forget to hit the like, subscribe, share button. Share this with your friends, loved ones. You can send me an email if you want to. FieryLove1111 @gmail.com. All right. I love you guys. Take care. Bye.